Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Shravanam Diaries Podcast.
Reading Bhagavad Gita as it is, the book by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga, Text 24. Sanishchayena yuktavyo yogo nirvinna chetasa sankalpa prabhavan kamams tyaktva sarvan asheshataha manaseva indriya gramam viniyamya samantataha. Mana saivendriya gramam. Okay. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. Purport. The yoga practitioner should be determined and should patiently prosecute the practice without deviation. One should be sure of success at the end and pursue this course with great perseverance, not becoming discouraged if there is any delay in the attainment of success. Success is sure for the rigid practitioner. Regarding Bhakti Yoga, Rupa Goswami says, Utsahan nishchaya dharyat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vritte shadbhir bhakti prasidhyati. Quote, one can execute the process of Bhakti Yoga successfully with full-hearted enthusiasm, perseverance, and determination by following the prescribed duties in the association of devotees and by engaging completely in activities of goodness. Unquote. Upadeshamrita 3. As for determination, one should follow the example of the sparrow who lost her eggs in the waves of the ocean. A sparrow laid her eggs on the shore of the ocean, but the big ocean carried away the eggs on its waves. The sparrow became very upset and asked the ocean to return her eggs. The ocean did not even consider her appeal. So the sparrow decided to dry up the ocean. She began to pick out the water in her small beak, and everyone laughed at her for her impossible determination. The news of her activity spread, and at last Garuda, the gigantic bird carrier of Lord Vishnu, heard it. He became compassionate toward his small sister bird. It's so sweet, right? Sister bird. And so he came to see the sparrow. Garuda was very pleased by the determination of the small sparrow, and he promised to help. Thus Garuda at once asked the ocean to return her eggs, lest he himself take up the work of the sparrow. The ocean was frightened at this and returned the eggs. Thus the sparrow became happy by the grace of Garuda. Similarly, the practice of yoga, especially Bhakti Yoga, in Krishna consciousness, may appear to be a very difficult job. But if anyone follows the principles with great determination, the Lord will surely help. For God helps those who help themselves. let's read this last sentence again. But if anyone follows the principles with great determination, the Lord will surely help. For God helps those who help themselves. Now, I would like to say that Bhakti Yoga is the only practice, or the only activity that you can take up, and you can rest assured that you will be successful. In any other thing, you may be successful, you may not be successful, because sometimes the odds are not in our favor, sometimes, and many things can happen. But when it comes to bhakti, when Prabhupada writes that success is sure for the rigid practitioner, that one should be sure of success at the end. Pursue this with great perseverance. So we can see many times in life that people, they apply their determination and they do become successful, but they don't really know if they will be successful or not, but they apply that. But in this case, we know that you will be successful. And how much determination are we able to, or are we willing to invest when we definitely know that it's up to us, basically. Now is the Kartik month, right? The Damodar month. And the pastime is really one of the key highlights of this pastime is determination. Because when Yashoda Devi, she was binding Lord Damodar, little Krishna, with the rope, it would be always 2 fingers too short, and she would put more and more and more ropes until the entire village didn't have any more ropes, and then the Lord he gave his mercy, and then he allowed himself to be tied up. And our acharyas, they describe that 2 fingers too short means that there will always be 2. You have to do your very best. You have to apply your determination, just like Yashoda Devi. She did everything at her disposal. Everything. But in the end, of course, we will never be able to tie up the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We will never be able to actually be successful on our own. We're just too small and too insignificant, and really not much we're really inconsequential if we look at proportions. Ours and the Lord, our attempts are really I consider myself to be pathetic sometimes in my attempts, but really it is about that, little bird trying to dry up the ocean. It really is that, it really describes our position. And it's just that we are determined and we're ready to pursue this and be, what did Prabhupada say? And be persevere no matter what. And then the Lord will be merciful, and He will come, and He will help us, because we are trying to help ourselves. It's just that, Yeah. Text 25. Shanai Ruparamid Buddhya Dritti Grihitaya Atma Samstham Manakritva Nakinchid Api Chintayet. Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence, sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. Purport. By proper conviction and intelligence, one should gradually cease sense activities. This is called pratyahara, the mind being controlled by conviction, meditation, and cessation from the senses, should be situated in trance or samadhi. So there should be conviction, meditation, and cessation from the senses. So it's not enough that we just engage our senses positively in Krishna consciousness and refrain our senses from material sense objects. It's not enough that we just meditate on the Lord. We have to be also controlled. We have to control our mind by conviction. Conviction. One of the reasons that I really appreciate or relish or value reading Srila Prabhupada's books every day is because my mind is very expert at convincing me of insecurity, doubts, distraction, convincing me that something else is more important, many things. The mind can convince you. But when you read Srila Prabhupada's books, when you read the books of previous acharyas, when you connect yourself with them, mind is convinced otherwise. Mind is convinced towards this proper direction. So I find that that's very... And then, you see, here also Prabhupada lists conviction first. Conviction comes first, and then you can meditate. Then you can, cessation from the senses. Then you can do these other things. Unless you're not convinced, unless you're convinced you can do this. If you're not convinced, then there are so many other priorities, isn't it? At that time, there is no longer any danger of becoming engaged in the material conception of life. In other words, although one is involved with matter as long as the material body exists, one should not think about sense gratification. One should think of no pleasure aside from the pleasure of the Supreme Self. This state is easily attained by directly practicing Krishna consciousness. Jai. Okay. We shall continue tomorrow about more techniques of how to control your mind. Jai. Thank you so much for tuning in today. The book links, previous episodes timeline, and biography of the author can be found on shravanamdiaries.com. The link is in the description, and we shall see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.